And the second issue that we're discussing tonight is of yet another Hathras-like horrifying case that has happened in the neighboring state of Bihar in Buxar. This is a state which is going to elections. This is a state where various political parties are talking about law and order, are talking about women empowerment, are talking about women's safety as well. And in the face of it is this horrifying, brazen attack on a woman that is coming from Buxar. A woman along with her 5-year-old child who were attacked, abducted by a group of 7 men while they were on their way to a bank. The woman was allegedly gang raped. The survivor, along with her 5-year-old toddler, were tied up and then tossed into a river. An open attempt to murder here as well. The survivor raised an alarm. She shouted for help. She was rescued well in time, but her child didn't survive. The child drowned. Strong voices that have come in on this case, including the sit-in government, saying that the accused will not be spared. 1 arrest has already taken place, but 6 people are still on the run on this. We're going to throw this open for further discussion here of the horrifying nature of the case, and also in a state that goes to elections in barely a couple of weeks' time here. Which party is going to be raising issues for justice to women who are attacked and continuously who are facing these cases of violence? Let's in fact throw this open to our guests with us. We have Mr. Amitabh Kumar Das, who's the former IPS from Bihar. We also have Mr. Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, senior journalist and author. Appreciate you being with us here. Let's in fact go across to Mr. Amitabh Kumar Das on this case that has happened here. Mr. Das, we know that there is an increase in the cases of violence against women. We have the NCRB data yet again for this as well on states that have shown an increase in these cases of brazen attacks of rape, kidnapping and attempt to murder. What in your view should be the larger message sent out today while we are sitting and speaking about a state like Bihar, where the government of the day is also in campaign mode here and saying that they will work for women empowerment? All right, let me in fact pose that question. We'll go to Mr. Amitabh Kumar Das in just a bit. Going across with that question to Mr. Nilanjan first. Go ahead, Nilanjan.
Well, any crime which takes place against people from the downtrodden sections of society must be condemned, and so too the incident in Buxar is really horrifying and requires to be condemned. Especially during election time, a government which is promising a fairly secure environment for women as well as other underprivileged sections, they have to be particularly careful. But having said that, crime against Dalits, specifically Dalit women, is not something that is happening for the first time. Quite often what happens is that we have seen that attention gets focused on crimes against Dalits, especially Dalit women, rapes of Dalit women, after something as big as a Hathras event happens. If you look at the NCRB data, you will find that every day, 10 Dalit women are being raped somewhere or the other in this country. Now, if it is happening something, so there has to be a consistent effort on part of the entire political class to ensure that this does not keep on happening all the time. There must be greater amount of political directive to law enforcement agencies to ensure that these cases do not keep on happening all the time. It has simply become the norm. This is a general consensus, and that Dalit women are to be raped. And quite often we have to understand that each of these cases, the accused quite often are known to those who are targeted. We have to look at the specifics of this Buxar case, whether the 7 who are being accused, to what extent they were, they knew this woman and the family. What were the reasons? Was this just a simple case of caste outrage, or was this some kind of a personal, revenge, or is there a certain personal background to it? But nonetheless, during election time, this comes into sharp focus and must be condemned unequivocally by everybody across political parties.
Absolutely. We're also going to be playing out some NCRB figures here that have been coming in, rapes in Bihar that have been reported from 2016 to the past few years of what we've seen in 2019. But there has been a minor reduction. Compared to the past two previous years, 2019 again saw an increase here of what has been put across officially in the NCRB. There are multiple political reactions here that are coming. Let's in fact take a listen into some of those reactions as well. We understand that this is the time that you're going to have the political opposition attacking the government here. The government of the day should be speaking out more strongly here on this. Let's in fact also take a listen in to those political reactions.
देखिए, ये बहुत विवाद घटना है। इसकी जितनी निंदा की जाए ये कम है। घृणात्मक घटना है। दोषी तो किसी हालत में बख्शे जाएंगे नहीं, आज तक नहीं बख्शे गए हैं। लेकिन ये कहीं कहीं समाज का गंदा चेहरा दिखाता है। माँ से गैंगरेप, बच्ची को मारना, क्या है ये? ऐसे ऐसे चेहरों को समाज में आइडेंटिफाई करके उनको बिल्कुल अलग करने की जरूरत है।
सुशासन है बिहार में। अभी सब आप आरोप लगा करके सुशासन पर उंगली उठा रहे हैं, सुशासन को बदनाम करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। नीतीश जी की सरकार यही कहेगी। जिस तरह से ये लोग दुहाई देते हैं सुधार, रोज की ये घटना हो गई है। कोई ऐसा नहीं है कि बक्सर की घटना अपवाद है, मन बढ़ा हुआ है अपराधियों का।
Nilanjan, what do you make of these reactions here, specifically on how this is now going to be used as a political tool in the elections as well? We know that the government of Day has spoken out, and yet there was also that horrifying Muzaffarnagar shelter home case there as well, which did have some of the JDU members as accused, but in the final report, of course, were not charge sheeted either. But the message that this sends out, is this going to be a point of debate with respect to law and order collapsing? Something that has been raised several times by the political opposition here as well, and for the sitting government to go into campaign on this.
No, I think you have very rightly pointed out that remand home and the fact that the person who was accused, whose name came up in a big way in that entire horrific incident, has been renominated by the ruling party. I think that has, linked to the Buxar incident. But I was also looking at the NCRB figures. While this might be true that, there's been marginal decline over the last 2 or 3 years in Bihar, but if you look at the overall picture, I was looking at some of the picture, the data of crimes against Dalit across the country, specifically rape of Dalit women. There has been in the last decade almost a 40% increase in terms of rapes of Dalit women, whereas there has not been a corresponding increase in the number of successful prosecutions. So, which means that law enforcement agencies across the country are faltering badly, and I think this is the time when a very serious discussion should be held amongst all political parties, and it is for the government of the day, both at the state and in the center, to call various stakeholders and discuss as to why this is happening repeatedly. Why is it that as the country is preparing for the 75th anniversary after becoming independent, why is it that something as horrific like this, why does it keep on happening? Why do people consider it to be their entitlement, that the men of upper caste are entitled to rape Dalit women? I think these are very important questions, and we must look in the mirror and face ourselves very seriously.
Okay. All right. No, because you've specifically raised this issue, but remember, the investigations to the Buxar case are still ongoing here. Mr. Amitabh Kumar Das, who's former IPS Bihar, connected with us here as well. Appreciate you being with us, Mr. Das. While this is a horrifying case of crime against women, in your understanding, should this also once again be seen through the prism of caste?
Caste has always been a big factor in Bihar, and especially in a feudal setup, in a feudal society, upper caste people use rape as a weapon against Dalit women to show their might, to show their superiority. So caste has always been a big factor in not only in Bihar, but I think in the entire Hindi belt. You see what happened in Hathras. And the same thing is now happening in Buxar. And I must put it very strongly that the Chief Minister of Bihar, Nitish Kumar, is in fact actively encouraging rapes. You won't believe it, but he has given ticket to Manju Verma, who was a social welfare minister in Bihar, and she had to quit the cabinet after the Muzaffarpur shelter home incident, in which 34 girls were raped. And now Nitish Kumar, who talks about Sushasan, about good governance, has again nominated Manju Verma as a JDU candidate because of this caste combination, because this Kurmi-Koiri combination that Nitish Kumar represents in Bihar. That is very shameful.
No, Mr. Das, Manju Verma's case is what we just mentioned a short while back before you were connected with us here. But do you think that this is the message that is being sent, that irrespective of what has happened in the past pertaining to crime against women and children, those who were questioned in the past can again be given a ticket only on the technical grounds here, for someone who had to resign from her post as well, for someone whose husband was arrested here as well, but only on the technical ground here, that finally they were let off. They were not even named in the CBI charge sheet.
See what happened, that this lady Manju Verma, she was sent to jail in connection with an Arms Act case. If Nitish had been serious about that case, he would have ordered, a speedy trial in that case. And this lady would have been convicted and would have been barred from contesting election. But Nitish Kumar didn't do that. He didn't order a speedy trial in the Manju Verma case. Because Manju Verma belongs to the Kushwaha caste, that is the Koiri caste. And that forms the vote bank of Nitish Kumar. So it is blatant casteism and nothing else. And now Manju Verma is claiming that she is a descendant of Emperor Ashoka the Great. See how they have fallen to which level? Can you believe that this lady claims that she is a descendant of Ashoka the Great, Emperor Ashoka? And I was also a student of history, and I never read in any history book that Emperor Ashoka was from the Kushwaha caste. But these politicians have proved that Emperor Ashoka came from the Koiri caste. And now this Manju Verma is brazen about her dubious origin.
Right. No, it's interesting that these points are being raised through one horrifying case of Buxar that has taken place here in Bihar. Mr. Das, Mr. Mukhopadhyay, I appreciate you sharing your views here on this, but largely of what the consensus here has been that the government of the day needs to be sending out a stronger message. If one single condemnation of the Buxar case that comes in today at the edge of the eve of the elections here, it won't make a difference. What matters is also of how the government has dealt with these cases in the past 5 years. And it is important that we remember that, because Bihar goes to vote in a couple of days, in a couple of weeks in fact. And for each voter here to remember the pertaining law and order situation in their state as well. Remember, Buxar is the latest. There could be another, but we're hoping that there would be another government, any given government, that could rein in this. The NCRB figures have marginally dipped. They need to dip further. Thank you for being with us tonight.